Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Sparrow, editor of Music Ally TV, coming to you from East Berlin this time. This session is going to focus on Twitch as a platform for music marketing and consumption with our guests, as Paul said, from Twitch. So we're going to be talking about what are the main marketing and commercial opportunities which music rights holders should be aware of to collaborate with Twitch. We're going to look at some case studies, and we'll look at how musicians can best monetize their presence on this platform, and also talk about how the music industry can interface with Twitch and its music team, which brings me nicely on to our guests. That's a very neat segue. Let's see if we can continue. First of all, both from the USA, so I guess it's good morning to you. Tracy Patrick Chan, VP of Music at Twitch. Hello, Tracy.
Hey, Joe.
Thank you very much for joining us. And Allyson Toy, Music Partnerships Manager at Twitch. Hi, Allyson.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, so thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully we'll be able to really dig into some of the nuts and bolts of how people can get the most out of the platform and connect with you as well. As a quick reminder, as Paul said, use the Q&A button, please, to put questions to our guests. They'll stay around for a little bit after they've left your screens, and they'll answer questions by text in the Q&A. So get your questions in now, and maybe you'll be the chosen ones. Okay, so yeah, there we go. Yes, exciting. So, perhaps we've only got half an hour, so we'll jump straight in, Allyson and Tracy. Now, Twitch has been making overtures to musicians for a long time. Of course, it's been very well known as a game streaming platform, but it's been making overtures to musicians for a while now. And in the light of coronavirus and what's happened subsequently, there's been an enhanced interest for musicians to use the platform in a constructive way. Now, as artists adjust to this new reality that we're entering into, they've been pulled in lots of different directions. They've got to release lots of new songs regularly. They've got to update their social media. They now also see the need to live stream video to fans. There's not enough time to do everything, and we're starting to see that artists shouldn't do everything. But which artists should focus their time on Twitch? Why? And what can they get out of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'll just dive in. You know, I think by way of context, you know, I think from personal experience, you know, I in my past lives, you know, built creator platforms, you know, for the two biggest music services, you know, in the planet. And, you know, we gave artists things like analytics, you know, ways to grow your audience, ways to express yourselves creatively. But the two things that I heard consistently from artists and their team are, one, I want to know more about my fans, and, you know, not more kind of charts and graphs and like descriptors of fans, but like, I want to know them in a more personal, deep level. Why is my music resonating, you know, with them? You know, what is it about certain songs? You know, what context do they like to listen to it? That sort of thing. And then two, you know, music is a labor of love, right? You put so much effort into it, so much time, and then, you know, you release your music. Maybe it's a hit, maybe it's not. But at the end of the day, you just don't make enough money from, you know, the music that's released. So if either of those things resonate with you as an artist or part of a creative team of an artist, we think Twitch can be a really, really great home for you, because we're really super powerful at two things. So one, first and foremost, Twitch is all about building a community. You know, it's really about how you can interact on a regular basis with your fans, and not only get to know who your fans are and what's motivating them, but them getting to know you as well, and really kind of fostering that community. And, you know, two, if you really lean into that community, you know, what we're seeing is that your fans will financially support you. In fact, you know, we have lots of singers, songwriters, producers, lots of music creators who are, you know, really making 5 and 6 figures a year on Twitch. And that number is really climbing every day. Going back to your question on like, what types of artists is this good for?
Yeah.
You know, really it's artists of all sizes. So, you know, we have kind of the superstars like, you know, Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park, Logic, and T-Pain. You know, they're kind of doing really creative things, like they are creating music with their fans. We have kind of, you know, the successful streamers. So artists like MXM Tune, who I think did a panel yesterday, Lewis Watson, RAC, you know, Grammy Award-winning artists. You know, they're actually, you know, going in and just hanging with fans and just fostering that community, and really kind of seeing how they're getting supported. We have behind the scenes artists and creative as well. So one of my favorites is Laura Shigehara. She's the composer of the Plants and Zombies soundtrack. And she's, you know, kind of talking through like how she kind of made the soundtrack for both that game and other games. We have Kenny Beats and Illmind, you know, producers who are traditionally, you know, behind the scenes folks, but like going on and explaining, their craft and how they're like making music and how they work with artists. And then we have, what we call like the fiercely independent artists, folks like the Dapper Rapper, Raquel Lilly, Megan Linius. These are people who, they're creating their career on their own. And what they're finding is that the financial support from their community helps them just really take control of their own career, fund, their creative projects and that sort of thing.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tracy. Allyson, at what point in, this is a broad question. I'm sure in some ways the answer is anytime, but at what stage in a career should an artist engage with Twitch and the audience, and how should they operate? How should they operate differently at different levels?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the most sort of important factor is how well do you activate your audience? How much do they listen to you? And I think that, there are plenty of artists who are sort of maybe smaller, maybe they've toured less, maybe they have less streaming numbers, that have small and mighty communities who might really punch above their weight. So it's hard to say. It really kind of depends artist by artist. But, I'm sort of the mind that sort of, as Tracy's mentioned, there are a number of artists who have kind of made so much of their careers on Twitch. So I really do believe that there's never time, never too early, so to speak.
Yeah, and so that, obviously one of the key functionalities and the features that people love is that live and the regular, extreme, close connectivity between fan and artist on the live stream. And one of the things that they need to figure out as artists performing essentially in a brand new space, in a brand new way, is how that works for them. Tracy, you mentioned a bunch of different artists and they all operate in completely different ways. So Allyson, just sort of expand on what you were saying. What can, the platform has built up its background as it's well known as a gaming platform. What can musicians and performers learn from gamers about that variety of different ways of performing? And what should they do differently to do as a musical artist that a gamer wouldn't do?
Sure. I think that's a really good question. I think one thing that they can definitely take from the gaming book is sort of reframing the idea of Twitch as like a social media profile, right? I think artists kind of have a tendency to approach Twitch maybe at first thought more similarly to how they approach like a Twitter or an Instagram, where it's kind of like, here are my thoughts and here are my photos and, my releases and whatever it is. Whereas, I think for Twitch, the chat and the community and the audience participation is sort of as much a part of the experience as whatever the streamer is doing. So I think the first step is to really kind of look at how gamers have made this sort of community oriented, where what is happening is sort of affected by the audience and vice versa, right? Second to that, I think, obviously what musicians are going to be doing on Twitch differs a lot from what gamers are doing, but, to take some inspiration from that experience too, I really encourage musicians to share things that they are already doing in their lives that they can bring their fans along for, right? So as opposed to camera turns on, I'm posturing, I'm performing, it's an on-camera interview, I've got beautiful hair and makeup, all that kind of stuff. You can do a high production quality type stream and everything, but the sort of experience that a fan generally tends to look for on Twitch is oftentimes a bit more authentic, kind of behind the scenes feeling, as opposed to sort of like the flashy stuff that you might see in an on-camera interview, so to speak. So in a way, I think an easy way to kind of integrate streaming into your life is to bring your fans and community along for the things that you're already doing rather than reinventing the wheel, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think, that Allyson makes a good point, and I think to your first question, Joe, artists are doing lots of things. They're producing music, and that's just such a strong use case of like, I'm going to either write lyrics or, open Ableton and show everyone, how I'm actually like making beats or those sorts of things. We also have, I think the beauty of Twitch is like artists can connect with their fans however they want. It can be a live performance. It can be a Q&A. They can game. Yesterday, Logic was gaming with Kane Brown, a country singer. It's just those kinds of like really raw, organic, ways that they just want to connect with their fans. We have artists who just, hey, I'm gonna show you me cooking, and you can like suggest like recipes. Actually, Allyson does that. She's a great artist.
Oh, really? Okay.
But like,
Noted.
It's really, really cool.
I mean, is this sort of in a sort of slightly philosophical question, but when artists are looking for how this actually works for them, are we talking about a future where, we're sort of figuring out now that we're separating away on stage performance away from online performance? They're two separate things. And is part of that what we think of traditionally as a musician is also a personality and when they think about performance on Twitch, it should really be more encompassing than just about their music. But there's a balance there, isn't it, between keeping music central to who they are, but also bringing something else in. How do you advise artists to sort of strike that balance and find their niche?
Yeah, I think that it's exactly right that it is a balance between, engaging with your audience, kind of keeping music kind of true and authentic to you. And really, the beauty of Twitch is like every single community is different and how they interact with each other is different. Some lean very much into live performance. Others kind of do more of those varieties. I'm just going to hang out with my fans any type of way. Logic's like that great example of, he's making beats. He's, talking through like his album and, the process of creating tracks. He's doing gaming. He interacts with other Twitch creators. Like he was on the Needle Drops channel the other day, kind of talking through music and things like that. And so he's kind of a great example of like, hey, my life's an open book. I'm just doing this really, really for the fans and to connect with them. And then there's the other side of the fence where it's, I'm doing performances and kind of interacting in between those musics. Really, when you go into Twitch, as you kind of surf around the different channels and interact with different creators, every community is very, very different, from the types of content to the level of interaction to even just like inside jokes that, the creator has with their community that kind of persist over time. And that's kind of the beauty, is that, it's what works for you, and ultimately what's your goal? Is it, just, hey, I'm hanging out with my friends? Is it, hey, this is a service that really helps me kind of make money, especially in this time where tours are paused. The beauty is like fans really, really want to support, those artists, or, hey, I have a new upcoming project, and fans can contribute to like me making an album or getting a better microphone or getting a better camera. It's all sorts of interactions, and that's just the beauty of Twitch.
Yeah, and Allyson, I mean, when we talk about you are the partnerships, music partnerships work in that side of things. When you talk about it on a kind of individual artist to fans level, those kind of partnerships, and we're talking about monetization here as well, and we'll move on to this in more detail, but we're talking about essentially in a way of building this direct connection between the artist and the fans. And you have to get that right though, don't you? So that the fans, like Tracy said, feel like they're supporting you in your progress. When you talk to artists, how do you find that they instinctively understand where to go? Or do you think that they need a little bit of help and research to find that path towards monetization?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, but I think for the most part, a lot of them find it pretty easy to understand in the beginning, when the majority of the revenue that they're generating from their fans is subscription. So it's kind of a patronage model, right? And I think people find that quite natural. Like there are other sort of platforms out there like Patreon that are sort of similar in that regard and everything. But I think the thing that is different about it for Twitch is that, sort of in the past, I guess, even your most engaged fans only had so many opportunities to kind of interact with you or to help you monetize, right? And if you consider the 1,000 fan rule or the 80-20 rule and whatnot, like generally it is sort of a small portion of your largest audience, your overall audience base that generates sort of the most revenue and ticket sales and merch and streams and stuff for you. And so I think Twitch is sort of a way of giving specifically those fans, and as well as everybody else, but specifically your super fans, just more opportunities to interact with you and to help you monetize by way of subscriptions or bits or sort of other means on Twitch.
Yeah, and Joe, one of the things that, sorry, Joe, I think one of the things that is helpful for artists to think through is that oftentimes they think going on Twitch is just like being on stage. And it's just that transition of like, I'm in a physical space to I have a camera in front of me broadcasting to a live audience. The difference is it's that, but plus kind of the green room experience where you're hanging with fans and then on a repeated basis. And once kind of artists understand, oh, cool, I get to hang with the fans, I get to have that actual fan interaction, that's when we see the light bulb go off and they really start to kind of lean into, really interacting with their fans.
Yeah, right, okay. And so moving on to the sort of the nuts and bolts of monetization then, perhaps you can explain what the platform offers directly to artists in terms of the different varieties of monetization within the platform itself, and what artists can also do to drive monetization once they've got that audience on the platform. Yeah,
so within Twitch, there's kind of two main direct fan to artist, what we call commerce products. So first we have subscriptions, which Allyson mentioned. You can pay $5, $10, or $25 to subscribe to an artist channel. And there's specific benefits that you get from it. First, you get a badge in chat, which kind of shows you, hey, I am a supporter, which is a good signal to the artist, hey, this is a supporter, and to the rest of the community as well. And then second, you get what we call emotes, which are custom emojis that the creator creates that they can use within that chat, but they can also take to other places and other chats within Twitch. The way that I like to describe it is, if you've ever had a band t-shirt or a badge on your backpack or a pin, like emotes are kind of that in the digital age, which really kind of help show that this artist is part of your identity as a fan. So subscriptions are really, really great. The two variations of subscriptions is you can pay for it yourself. You can gift them to other members of the community. And so I mentioned Laura Shigehara. The other day she had a stream in which there were 1,400 gift subscriptions in a single stream. And she had, just generous fans, wanting to help the rest of the community have those benefits. And then lastly, on subscriptions, we have what we call Prime Gaming. We're part of Twitch, so it's called Prime Gaming. But basically, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link your Twitch account and you get a free subscription to any channel you want every single month. And so literally it's kind of a benefit you've already paid for. You don't have to pay extra money, and the creator gets the full amount for that subscription. So that's the subscription side. And then we have kind of, what we call bits and cheers. And this is kind of basically a virtual currency. A viewer will buy it and then they can donate in microtransactions directly to the creator. The beauty is you can donate as little as 1 cent up until uncapped amounts. And really what's cool about this is, it is really, really uncapped. So the other, a couple of weeks ago, I was in a stream. I won't name the creator, I won't embarrass them. But basically you had two super fans kind of showing who was the biggest super fan by cheering bits. So it started with like $1, and then it was like $5 for the other person. And then it was $20, and then it was 50. Basically, they got into 4 figures for each of them, just showing the support. And again, this is just something that doesn't happen kind of in the real world. When you go to a concert, you pay, $30, $50, $100 to go see the concert. Maybe you buy the $40 t-shirt, but you kind of get capped out on how much you can support.
You never see people throwing bundles of money onto the stage at the band, do you really?
Totally, exactly. And I think kind of totally. And again, the beauty too is, really the community wants to support, these, creatives in multiple ways. So again, we see kind of a lot of success where, there are specific goals of like, hey, I want to buy this new keyboard, or I need a new streaming PC, or hey, I'm about to self-fund an album. And really, people can start contributing to that goal specifically, and then they see the direct benefit. So those are kind of the two biggest monetization tools that we have within Twitch.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tracy. I mean, Allyson, they're really powerful, and I think it's quite quick. Artists must quite quickly see the power of that, and especially with the idea of being able to gift a subscription to be able to bring in other fans and things. It becomes, you're building essentially, there's something that the fans get out of it as well as the artists getting out of it. So, what can artists do when they are streaming? What can they do to sort of encourage this behavior? Because you can expect certain fans to jump in and throw in money but not everybody. And how do artists sort of encourage all these different types of behavior?
Yeah, I think, interestingly enough, I think oftentimes the community encourages it just as much as the artist does, right? A big part of it, sort of as Tracy mentioned, is, being able to identify who your super fans are, and in many ways, they kind of self-identify by subscribing. They have, when they talk in your chat, they have a subscriber badge that shows up next to their username, so that you as the streamer can easily sort of identify these people. And I think, some of the things that I've seen people do really well are just sort of thanking and showing appreciation for the subscribers, sort of reciprocating that loyalty and whatnot. But yeah, I'd say I see people do it all in quite different ways.
And that's the differentiation of Twitch, I think, is that, because we kind of came from a world in gaming where it's an expectation really that you're going to support the creator. That's a differentiation for Twitch, and that's carried over to the music community as well, where, like Allyson said, there's both kind of built-in expectation of the community to support, but also mechanics. So you not only get kind of the badge that I'm a subscriber, the top kind of gift givers, they also get badges as well. The top bit givers also get badges. So again, you can kind of quickly differentiate, this person kind of subscribed once versus this one, subscribed for 12 months or, gave, they're the biggest gifter, that sort of thing. And we see kind of, really the response and the closeness that you kind of have with these supporters. The community sees it, and then they incentivizes them.
So you've got that hierarchy of fans. It's very visible. Like certain bands, when you go and see them at a venue, you can't get near the front because the super fans are there and they've pushed to the front and they're holding the space. So it's a bit like that in that you can see who they are. The other fans can see who they are, and and they can work their way up to that and get the extra rewards.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think it's self-identifying too, because it's definitely not an ecosystem where I'm only going to talk to the people who have the special badges. It's really kind of thinking about how do you kind of use these mechanics kind of in what your regular creative process actually is. So a good way that folks use subscriptions and bits is for song requests. We see lots and lots of creators saying, hey, here's my song list. You can request songs. Anyone can request songs, whether you're a subscriber or not, but I'm going to prioritize subscribers or bits donors and things like that. So you kind of have those gamification dynamics as well. And then secondarily, we have different tiers of subscriptions and they have different benefits. So it can be, I have kind of more emotes and very exclusive emotes that everyone knows if I have it, I'm kind of, a big supporter. But also it could be things like, hey, if you're a, what we call a tier 3 subscriber, which is our highest tier, $25 a month, you also get access to downloads, exclusive kind of Discord chats, exclusive merch, things like that. And so it's a kind of tying the Twitch mechanics to offline mechanics as well.
So there is really a sort of a responsibility for the artist who's performing to sort of show the wares a bit and sort of say, look, if you do this, you get these benefits, and then people will learn by watching, but also they need to be a bit proactive, I guess, there and explain these things.
Yeah. Well, and the beauty of it too is we have kind of the extension and bot ecosystem. So extensions are basically, tools where you can show visual overlays and things like that. And you have bots as well, which kind of talk and chat. The beauty is that the artist doesn't have to, hawk their wares, so to speak. Rather, the bots kind of do it for them. Because, for a lot of artists, it's just not natural to kind of say, hey, please give me money. And that's where bots are really, really important, because at whatever cadence they want, every 10 minutes or 30 minutes, they can say, hey, these are the benefits of the different tiers and that sort of thing. And that creates incentive as well.
Do you think that, we're talking about potentially a substantial percentage of an artist's income. If you build up the following and work all these angles very well, you can, do you think that, Allyson, maybe a question for you, do you think that going forward, as the industry reshapes, that this kind of behavior, for a lot of artists is quite new ways of generating income, do you think this is going to form a significant percentage of their income going forwards as an expansion on the sort of traditional money from sales, streaming, merchandise, and live?
Sure. I think for the artists that do keep it up, it definitely can be. And I think the good thing about it too is, Twitch, we're really big on sort of supporting artists' entire ecosystems and everything. And so I think that there are also ways for a lot of creators to tie in things that they're doing off of Twitch onto Twitch. And I think a good example of that is MXMtoon, who actually also, I think, spoke, if not today, yesterday.
Yesterday, I think, yes.
Yesterday, yeah. Incredible creator who is sort of an internet polyglot, does all sorts of things. She's got a big following on YouTube, a big following on TikTok, and she also has a new podcast with Spotify. And so, for her, an example of how she's sort of tied in these other platforms and other things she's got going on in her careers is she does this daily podcast with Spotify. Every week she does sort of like a roundup and highlights episode on Twitch. So she's sort of like bringing her audience along for both things and kind of surfacing multiple parts of her career simultaneously to those fans. And so I think for an artist like that finds an interesting way to bring in other parts of their career, whether it be touring or podcasting, can definitely find Twitch to be a really great sort of promotional vehicle, as well as a revenue generation vehicle long-term.
So, people are watching this, perhaps in the varying levels of understanding or having used Twitch to various levels in the past. So let's say, it's clear that this is definitely an opportunity for artists and for music rights holders at the moment. So as a sort of final question, we've got 5 minutes to go. Where do you advise these people to focus to get the most out of Twitch for them as individuals? Let's say they're starting now. You know, every artist is different. How do they engage? What's the good way to start? And how can they really drill into it to make sure they get the fans that they want, whether they're existing ones from somewhere else or making new fans, and getting the most out of it for them to build into that portfolio career that they're building? Let's carry on with you, Allyson, and then we'll save Tracy for last.
Yeah, sure. I'd say, you know, if there are two things that I would want any artist or artist manager to take away from this conversation is to, you know, as they're approaching Twitch, to really think about community and consistency, right? Community for all the reasons that we've kind of mentioned before, creating that sort of direct rapport with your fans and everything, making sure that they feel seen and heard and listened to. And easy ways to do that are by answering their questions and just sort of shouting out your top supporters and whatnot. And I think the consistency bit of it too, especially for somebody who's starting out on Twitch, whether you're a super big artist with a huge fan base off platform or a smaller one, you know, to the extent that you can stick to as regular of a schedule as possible, really, because you kind of treat this more like, you know, watching cable TV or appointment-based viewing and everything, the easier you'll find it is to sort of drive retention and help your audience just sort of anticipate hanging out with you at certain times throughout the week.
And I guess it's fairly sort of, if you've already got an established fan base somewhere else on another social media platform, it's quite easy to pivot them across and bring them into that regular scheduling as well, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, cool, great. And Tracy, same for you. Like, what's the one big takeaway that people should keep in mind when they're starting out?
Yeah, so I'm going to give you two. I'm going to cheat. So,
Sure.
You know, first and foremost, I think, you know, thinking about Twitch kind of, it forces you to kind of unlearn everything you know about the music industry. I think today in the music industry, you know, artists, creatives are told you need millions of everything to be successful. Millions of streams, video views, followers, that sort of thing, because it is a marketing platform and helps you earn money in other places. And what we're seeing on Twitch is that is not true. What you need is your true fans to actually support you. And if you engage with those true fans, you can make a significant amount of money. And it's not kind of these indirect plays. It is money that's going directly from fans to artists. And so I think kind of, you know, that's just super, super important to focus on your true fans versus trying to get the millions and millions of everything. And then I think secondarily, you know, with that in mind, because you can generate a living wage on Twitch specifically, what this does is it creates choice for artists. There's lots of talk today with some big name artists about, you know, how they have to go into certain contractual relationships and things like that to be successful. What we're doing is we're creating a way where artists can control their own destiny. They can leverage their fans to kind of create their artwork and really own their artwork and drive their careers forward. And we're just so excited to be part of this because there is so much talent in the world that is, you know, quite frankly, ignored by the music industry. And we're a service that is here for them.
Yeah, and I've written down unlearn everything. So that's the big takeaway. Thanks, Tracy. But I mean, really quickly, we have a minute left, and I guess, do you find that when you talk to artists and you say to them, okay, you have direct control, you are able to connect, you can unlearn everything and do it your way, do they just jump in with both feet and they're excited?
I think the biggest thing is, the biggest advice I would give to artists is come into Twitch as a viewer and go into some communities that are similar to your style. And once you like participate, the light bulbs just go off. I think kind of in the abstract term when we talk about community and monetization, you know, it's really kind of being a part of the community. It's actually quite easy once you see it for yourself.
So if people want to figure it out, really diving in, looking at some similar artists to themselves, seeing what they're doing, they'll, I guess, want to get started themselves because they'll want to be part of it, I guess. Great. Well, thanks very much. I mean, we've only got 30 seconds left, so I think we're going to wrap it up there. Allyson and Tracy, thank you very much for joining us from the USA for this. And thank you for all the knowledge and the ideas. And I hope it's influenced or inspired some of you out there to give it a go and to sort of, well, see what you can make of it, I guess, you know, see what you can do. And I think that brings us to the end of the panel. So don't forget that we've had some really, really good questions in the Q&A section. If you have one burning issue, drop it in there now. And Allyson and Tracy are kind enough to hang around for a few minutes after we finish on screen, and they will answer some, and there's some really, really good questions in there as well. I've just looked, so you'll enjoy those. Well, that's it. I'm sure Paul is waiting in the wings to usher me off.
Thanks so much, Joe.
Thank
That
you.
was a great session. Thank you, guys. That was really, really good. There's a lot of love going on for you in the chat there, and yes, a ton of questions as well.